Hi there, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Total Ramblings. A little while ago, just before the start of the new year, I unboxed this, which is the Dwarf 3 smart telescope. And had a bit of trouble getting it set up, but we got it working eventually. And I actually promised you that I would do a follow-up with a proper sort of review. Now, it was actually very cloudy here at the end of 2024. And in fact, the first night I got this, the only thing I was able to do was stick it out my front door and take a photo of some footage of a car registration plate down the road just to make sure it was working. I knew what all the controls were, etc. I have since, however, been able to actually use this with, I think, some great success. And what I'm going to do is I've got 5 separate photos or sort of areas that I want to show you that I've been doing. And I'm just going to go through them in the order with which I actually took these particular images, because obviously I'm learning as we go along, right? So first of all, on the 3rd of January, the moon was just in a sort of waxing phase. It was kind of quite sort of orange, and I did my first track of the moon. Now, the day before, I had tried to calibrate my Dwarf 3, but my garden's on a little bit of a slope and it registered a failure. The night after that, I actually put it on a proper stable flat surface, which is exactly what you're supposed to do. And I was able to calibrate it first time. And then I put it on top of another object and got this picture of the moon that you're looking at right now. Okay, this first image you're looking at was about 210 separate exposures, and it's a stacked image. Essentially, the moon was quite low in the sky. I wasn't able, as you can see from the original photo here, I wasn't able to center it particularly well in the telescope itself. But in the cropped version, you'll see that we've got a very nice image, and this is exactly straight out of the camera. I've done no post-processing on this whatsoever. This is literally the color that the moon was. That was on the 3rd of January. And I think you'll agree the results there are quite impressive, bearing in mind this was my first actual attempt using this camera in anger. Now, for the next couple of nights, it was unfortunately a bit cloudy. But what I was able to do was I was able on the 6th of January, so just 3 days ago, to take another picture of the moon. And my intention is to try and get all the different phases of the moon. That might take a while because of the weather situation here. The weather in the UK is not terribly predictable. This one here, again, straight out the camera, no post-processing whatsoever. Can't remember how many exposures this was, but I think this is a really beautiful picture of the moon, with the sort of craters particularly prominent across the sort of the Terminator line there. I thought that one, I was very, very pleased with that one. And then finally, whilst we're on the sort of topic of the moon, the next night, I also took another picture of the moon, again, slightly later phase. And as I say, my intention is to try and get all the different phases of the moon. And again, I think some stunning results there, particularly with those sort of sunlit sort of craters at the bottom there. So already quite promising. Now, of course, it's not just for looking at the moon. I have been able to successfully get some good pictures of the moon previously, with a DSLR and a very large lens. But you know, but I also wanted to take some pictures of of some stars. Now, my problem has always been with astrophotography is that I've never had an astronomical mount, so I've never been able to successfully track. So essentially, I've been doing sort of 25, 30-second exposures of certain objects. And I've been able to kind of get like broad expanses of stars and what have you. But I've never really been able to kind of get like a deep focus on something very far away. And I've never, ever had stacking software. And the beauty of this particular piece of equipment is You set it up, it calibrates, it tracks, it stacks, it does everything for you. It feels a little bit like cheating, if I'm honest with you. But as I say, I'm all about getting the pictures out at the end of the day. So the next thing I tried to do was I just want to show you this very, very rough and ready picture of the Pleiades, Seven Sisters, that I took. I'm not quite sure which ones are the Seven Sisters. This one has been a slight bit of processing out of the image. I'll show you the original where you can see it's a little bit more grainy and a little bit grayer. Essentially, I went into Adobe Lightroom and tidied it up a little bit and kind of made it a bit darker. Obviously, the Seven Sisters, Pleiades, however you pronounce it, are known for being kind of blue in colour. I was going to kind of put like a blue kind of tint over it, but I decided not to in the end. But that was literally maybe half a dozen separate exposures on that particular one. But the final one I want to show you, and bearing in mind I'm still working with this device, and I've obviously by no means finished, but this particular one I am very, very proud of. This is the Andromeda Galaxy. Now, I've got several different versions of this particular photo to show you. The first one is the Andromeda Galaxy as it was photographed by the Dwarf 3. Now, this was 444 separate 15-second exposures, obviously, which have been stacked. And this is exactly as it came out of the camera with no post-processing. The second image that I'm showing you now is the same image rotated with a tiny bit of post-processing, either in Photoshop or Lightroom, I forget which. And then the third image that I'm showing you now, quite a lot of adjustment in Lightroom. There's no sort of AI or anything involved here. This is literally just what was already in the image, and I've just adjusted the exposure and the shading and the contrast and all that kind of stuff, and applied I think I applied one of the filters to it that I got for astrophotography, and that is, essentially it's just an adjustment in Lightroom. And then the fourth picture we've got here is a close-up of that, or a crop, I should say, of that previous image. You can still see it's slightly grainy with a lot of sort of kind of artifacts there, especially sort of in that top left and bottom left corner, but that's kind of a crop. But what I will say is, bearing in mind these are sort of my first attempts at using the Dwarf 3, I am really, really very, very impressed with what it's able to put out. And, I'm an amateur, right? I'm sure people could get a lot better results out of this. I'm sure, I know for a fact that because it saves all the separate images separately, you're actually able to do your own stacking if you want. So if there were any particular sort of bum kind of takes in there, you could always exclude those from the final stack. But this is what I've been able to achieve with the Dwarf 3, and this is literally sort of a week into owning it. So that's kind of my review, really. I think the results speak for themselves. I'm not going to go into details about how to operate the thing or what adjustments you might do. This is almost literally out of the box. And if you're into any astrophotography of any kind, then I think this is really a bit of a no-brainer, to be honest with you, unless you've already got equipment that does a lot more than this, of course. So that's really all I kind of wanted to talk about, really, was to kind of show you what I've been able to achieve with the Dwarf 3. Obviously, I look forward to getting your comments on this and to whether you think these pictures are any good, but I think they're stunning compared with what I was able to get before. And without investing hundreds and thousands of pounds into astronomical equipment. As I've said, I do have a telescope. I don't have an astronomical mount for it. I can't track stuff. And even when I was able to get stuff in focus with my eye, I always had trouble attaching my camera because I would then lose the subject, or it would be out of focus and I'd get a rubbish picture. This machine, this Dwarf 3, does everything I wanted it to. And no, this is not a paid subscription. I bought this thing, or rather my wife bought it for me. We bought it ourselves. Nobody's paying me to say these things. And as I say, these are the results that I'm getting. So that's really all I've got to say on the topic for now. I'll obviously give you any updates of any further photos that I'm able to get, but this device is recommended, really. I really like it. I think it's really good. I think for the money, I think you're getting some absolutely astonishing results out of this, and I can't really say too many good things about it at the moment. I might try it with their other suggested usage for birds or whatever, but I've got cameras for that already, right? So I bought this for astrophotography, and it's already proving its weight in gold for me. So I'd like to thank you very much for watching this episode of Total Ramblings. As always, please remember to like, subscribe, comment, share, hit the bell icon, all those different buttons there on YouTube. And I will see you in the next episode of Total Ramblings. Thank you very much. Goodbye.